welcome to Raptors Weekly for the week of March the 9th. It's a solo podcast today, as everybody is off, except me. And I had to watch the Raptors lose to the OKC Thunder, 108-104, which takes the losing streak to 3 games. It also means the Raptors have lost 8 of 9 games at this point, so certainly tough times are upon us. It's not fun right now, man. It is not fun losing to Cleveland at home and then lost to Charlotte again. Like they really got our number, 103-94. And the latest one is, of course, to OKC and Russell Westbrook with another triple-double. This one was actually not as difficult to watch. The Raptors were in it for the most part. They had a good first half, really played good defense, scramble defense, as Dwayne Casey likes to call it. He had his scramble guys out there who were scrambling and closing people out and pressing and doing all kinds of scrambly things. And they were moving the ball as well. They had 16 assists in that first half. DeMar DeRozan had like 6 at halftime. Terrence Ross came off the bench and gave them a boost, hit a bunch of threes. He was inserted back into the lineup, so that kind of paid off for Dwayne Casey. But you kind of knew that the pace of the game was not sustainable. Like, if you go up and down against the OKC Thunder, you're going to hang with them for a bit, but the chances of you actually pulling it through by playing their style of game is very low. And sure enough, in the second half, the Thunder kind of adjusted. They kind of sagged off the Raptors. We didn't get as many dribble penetrations. And guys like James Johnson were left to shoot, kind of wide open jumpers, which they couldn't make. Jonas Valanciunas didn't get a great amount of run, but Enes Kanter had him covered quite a bit. And the Raptors only mustered 6 assists in the second half and ended up losing. And they had a chance at the end, but Dwayne Casey made some interesting decisions. He down 4 with about 15 seconds left. He didn't call a timeout, and DeRozan ended up taking a really bad shot. And then later on, surprisingly, with 1 second left and down 4, he called a timeout. So I don't know. I don't know what he was hanging on to that timeout for. I don't know. It just it's one of those things that you can't really explain. But overall, you got to take the positives from this game because the Raptors did compete. They hung with OKC, who've been on a tear. No Durant, but still, they hung with them, so give them credit for that. I think if they played like this, with this kind of aggression or intensity at least, they might be, in more games. But at the same time, when you get out-rebounded against any team, when you get out-rebounded 49-33 as you did against OKC, the chances of you winning a game on the road are extremely low. And so the Raptors lost. And one of the lineups that we saw today was, man, it was a small lineup. It basically 3 guards with Kyle Lowry, Vasquez, and Lou Williams, 3-point guards. And then you had James Johnson at the 4 and Patrick Patterson at the center. And at the time, the Raptors were down 14 on the glass. So I don't know. I don't know if that makes total sense. I think Dwayne Casey has this faith in his smaller lineup, which they only pay back in spurts, but they can't seem to. Like that lineup, that smaller lineup is good to change the momentum of a game. Maybe for like 5 minutes or so, they might have an impact. But Casey has a tendency to kind of hang with that lineup for a longer stretch. And it's one of those cases of diminishing returns. The more you play them, the less you're going to get out of them, just because the physical demands placed on a lineup like that on defense is too much. So the Raptors lost, and they've lost 8 of 9. So that's that. Prior to that, it was the Charlotte game. I mean, I'm sick of Charlotte, man. Every time I see them on the schedule, I just dread. I dread Gerald Henderson. I dread Kemba Walker, even though he wasn't there. And then Al Jefferson's a killer. I mean, in that game, Casey benched Jonas Valanciunas for the entire fourth quarter. He did not play a single minute. And in that game, the Raptors were out-rebounded by 24 rebounds. 24 rebounds. And our best rebounder is on the bench. There's a moment in that game where the Charlotte coach recognizes that Patrick Patterson's playing center, and he points to Al Jefferson on the bench, and he picks him up, and sure enough, Jefferson goes in there, gets like 2 offensive rebounds, a couple of scores here and there, while Jonas sits. It's obvious. It's an obvious tactical error made by Dwayne Casey. And when he was quizzed about it after the game, he actually admitted that, yeah, it was a mistake. He should have got Jonas in earlier. It's common sense. Like, what are you waiting for? This smaller lineup is not gonna outgun Al Jefferson. Like, they're not going to run you up and down the court. Like, if he thinks that a smaller lineup will actually outplay the team for more than 3-4 minutes at a time, he's sadly mistaken. Those days are over. That used to happen at the start of the season when the lineup was kind of new. Teams hadn't adjusted. Lou Williams was still a bit of people didn't quite know how he'd fit into the Raptors, but now everybody knows. The secret's out. And the Raptors have yet to adjust. The same lineup that was paying huge dividends and giving us big fourth quarter leads early in the fourth quarter is now giving us a net negative, and that's not surprising. That's just coaches making adjustments. Nothing, no rocket science here, man. No rocket science. And then prior to that, we had Cleveland, who. I went to this game at the ACC, and I regret doing that, man. I do not like the ACC atmosphere. It's not a place you can enjoy basketball. Because when you're down like 18, you don't want to play a BMO contest and guess which card is a BMO card and which card is some other card on the Jumbotron. You don't want to do that. You just want to sit in silence and reflect on why we're down 18 at home. LeBron obviously was too much in this game, but my memory of this game is more than LeBron. I think it's James Johnson who was covering James for the better part of 3 quarters and was doing an okay job. He wasn't stopping him. He was actually scoring against LeBron on occasion. He was keeping him relatively in check. And Cleveland basically ran the same play about 40 times in this game, and that's LeBron using a high screen, or not even using one, just getting into the elbow area and doing a hard kick out to one of his three-point shooters and basically catching the Raptors over-helping. The game plan here by KC was to help on LeBron James, and he did so very early in the play, almost every single time. And that pass back, the kick-out pass back to the perimeter was just, LeBron could have made that blindfolded. It happened so many times. And the Raptors got burned for it. Cleveland was... they hit like 15 threes in that game. 15 for 36 they were. 42% from 3. They burned us. I guess you got to pick your poison. Do you want LeBron beat you, or do you want his teammates to beat you? And kind of both did. Like, LeBron had a big game, and his teammates had a big game. LeBron ended up with 29 points, most of it coming in the fourth quarter when James Johnson wasn't guarding him. For some reason, Dwayne Casey switched DeMar DeRozan on James, and he got let up, obviously. DeRozan's not as big, not as strong, not as quick, and James made the most of that, and the Raptors lost that one. So that was disappointing too. And prior to that was the Philadelphia win, 114-103 in Philly. Thank God for Philly, man. We've beaten them 4 times this year. Our record currently is 38-25. If it weren't for them, we'd be a lot worse. So a round of applause for Philadelphia for giving us 4 wins. And a quick check at the division standings tells us that the Raptors are currently 12 games or 11 and a half games ahead of Boston. So we should be safe there. We should be safe. And that's an important point, because this team at this point has essentially guaranteed itself home court advantage through the first round, just by way of winning the division. And you have to wonder if that complacency has sort of set in the team, and that they're just waiting for the finish line because there's nothing much to play for. Like, if you look at the standings right now, let me just pull those standings up, and the Raptors right now are in 4th spot. They're facing Washington, a 4-5 matchup, a team they've swept. And if they're in 3rd place, they would face Milwaukee, a 3-6 matchup, which they've lost a game in. So Washington versus Milwaukee, does it really matter that much? I don't know. I don't know if the Raptors are complacent. I honestly don't know. I don't think their effort is poor. I think every game they've played so far, they've started off with good effort. It's just that when things go against them, when they hit a rut or they hit a bad stretch in a game, they don't have that fight back that we saw earlier in the year. I remember earlier in the year, if the Raptors were down like 6 points early in the fourth quarter, you kind of had full confidence that they'd come back and win it. It was weird, but you did feel that way, and that was coming into last season as well, or during last season, I should say. there was this confidence that it doesn't matter what the score is, the Raptors have the ability to come back. And now it's kind of the opposite. We were like down 4 against OKC, but you kind of knew that the Raptors were going to blow it. Like we knew that whenever a big shot needed to be hit, DeRozan or Kyle Lowry were going to miss it, and those shots were going in earlier in the year. So there's this loss of confidence, I guess, with the club right now that really manifests itself when the game's a little bit tight, and they're almost kind of refinding on how to win games. I know it's an odd statement to make for a team that's won 38 games, but I think there's a loss of confidence issue at play here as well. And that Cleveland win would have been huge. The OKC win would have been huge. I think that really would have helped, but it was not to be. And then Philadelphia beats Atlanta a couple nights ago, which kind of tainted our win against Atlanta because they're not having a great second half of the season. So I don't know. It's just there's a lot of things going on Raptor related that are not very positive, and the upcoming schedule, it's not exactly easy, man. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But for now, let's take a break and come back with some Twitter questions. Welcome back to part 2 of a solo podcast here on Raptors Republic. We'll be back next week with the full panel, but for now you got to deal with me, man. You got to deal with me, or you could just turn it off. I wouldn't mind. I would not blame you. But let's take some Twitter questions, man. Let's take some Twitter questions, and let's start off with @IamHarshDave, who asks, please talk about DeMar's dumb comments about shooting himself out of a slump and taking contested shots. So what he's referring to here is DeMar DeRozan going on record saying that sometimes he likes to take contested shots because those kind of he feels more comfortable taking those. He kind of lines himself up better when the shot is more contested, and that sometimes you got to shoot yourself out of a slump, even if it means taking contested shots. So, yeah, I think sometimes this comment might be taken a little out of context. I kind of know what he means by taking a contested shot, because sometimes, like on a fade, for example, you're bound to take a better fade if somebody's close to you. I know it sounds weird, but your natural method of shooting or your natural surroundings when you take a fade away is that somebody's contested you. And if somebody's not contesting you, it might feel stupid to take a fade away. So I kind of get what he's saying there. When somebody's on you, you feel the body, you feel the presence. It kind of lines you up better for the shot. I get it from that angle. What I don't get is that he prefers to take contested shots. And that's a concern, because you don't want to hear the guy who takes the most shots on your team make a statement like that, because that generally means he's okay with taking poor shots. I don't know what to make of his comments. I think they're a bit silly. And if you ask his coach privately, off the record, there's no chance of the conversation getting out. I think he'd prefer DeMar taking cleaner looks than somebody draped all over him. I don't know. That's just me, but I think that would be the case. As far as shooting himself out of a slump, you got to do that responsibly. You can't do that at the expense of all your other teammates kind of standing around in the offense suffering. Like, I get what he's saying. You got to shoot till you make when you're kind of in a slump, but you can't just go rogue. And that's what he's been kind of doing against the Knicks and the game prior to that. Lately, he's been a little better, but overall, yeah, I think he's operating more or less outside the framework of any offense the Raptors might have. Tonight, he had a decent game against OKC, but overall, DeMar's like a man on a mission. Like, he wants to prove something. He wants to make sure that people know that he still got it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I just think that like everything else, he's got a bit of a confidence issue, and he's trying to fight through it. And the way he does it is by kind of taking over the game, or at least trying to give himself a pat on the back, maybe by winning a game by himself. But it's not happening right now for him. And he's got to realize that he's not a player yet who can take over a game. He does not have frankly, the elevation, to take contested shots. He doesn't have the quickness to blow by his man all the way to the rim consistently. He doesn't have that Westbrook quickness that we saw tonight. So the less he tries that, the better the team is. His strength is amazingly just catching it when somebody else sets him up. A handoff or a catch and shoot or a peel off or using a baseline screen, stepping out. That's his game. When he tries to dribble for 15 seconds and then make a move, that's not good for the team. It's not good for the team. So I don't know if I answered that question, but there you go. The next one is Ross versus Bloodsport. I'm assuming that's James Johnson. What pros and cons? What are the pros and cons of Ross versus James Johnson? That's by a tweet Virani at a tweet Virani. Obviously, Ross provides 3-point shooting, and Dwayne Casey was on record after the Cleveland game, I think it was, that he really needs Ross in there so that he can spread the floor. He was explicit about that. We always talk about, James Johnson, lanes get clogged, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a big believer of that. But Dwayne Casey went on record and said that, he thinks that the team really needs Ross because without him, the court spacing suffers, and Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan spacing suffers. Their shot selection suffers. I don't know. I don't know if that's the correct way of looking at Ross. I don't know if he's there just to get DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry open looks. I think that's almost taking a narrow view of our offense, that your job is to create space for DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry to do their thing. I think it's got to be more than that. I think it's kind of like how the Spurs use Danny Green. Danny Green's not there to give Tony Parker space. Danny Green is a part of a greater offense. He does more than just spot up. He moves, he passes, he plays defense on the break. He does more than just spread the floor. And I feel that the way Dwayne Casey looks at Terrence Ross is in just this very limited way where he's the guy who spaces the court. And that's it. And he does it for DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, and that's his job. I think you got to take a greater view of Terrence Ross's abilities and integrate him into the offense, much like Jonas Valanciunas. Like that's the comparison that I make. Like right now, like we say, we got to get Jonas involved in the offense, and the way Casey does that is basically by dumping him the ball and asking him to post up. That's not really getting somebody involved in the offense. I mean, getting somebody involved in the offense is setting a screen for him, make sure he gets to the right place at the right time, the ball reaches him correctly. It requires a lot of effort and planning to integrate a big man like Jonas into the offense. And the same is true for Ross. Ross's role right now is basically you're a 3-point shooter. If you're not hitting your 3-point shots, you're useless, which I think is not the best use of his abilities. I mean, anybody can go through a shooting slump. Does that mean that the whole player becomes useless at the point? I don't know if I'm making much sense. But what I'm trying to get at is that even when Terrence Ross isn't shooting the three, even when he's not playing great offense, he can't be a write-off for the team. Dwayne Casey's got to figure out some way to get Ross into the offense, part of the defensive scheme, something, make him be a contributor even when his offensive game isn't, at top flight. As far as comparison with James Johnson, obviously that Ross is not as good a defender or as good a driver of the ball. So I get that. But I think we've talked about this enough on the podcast that I don't think James Johnson needs to be a great 3-point shooter to be on the court. I think he does enough things elsewhere that he warrants a spot, maybe even over Ross on most nights. So pros and cons. Pros, Ross can shoot, James Johnson can't. But, I think it's up to Dwayne Casey to figure out how to make Ross useful when he's not having a great offensive game, and I don't think we've seen that yet. Then Brandon Wilcox at Wilcox1232 asks, what about the inability of any perimeter player to stay in front of anyone? Part of it is inability of the individual player, and part of it is this acceptance that it's almost okay to have your guy go by you because we're so help conscious. That's the Raptors offense. They help aggressively on every area on the court at all times. And Dwayne Casey, after the Cleveland game, called out the fact that dribble penetration is a big problem. And which is kind of contradictory, because if your help scheme is so focused on providing help, maybe the players at that point feel that it's okay if your guy doesn't stay in front of you because you're supposed to help on every possession. Maybe if the scheme was that if you get beat, you don't get help from the weak side, you don't get help from the wings every time, and you get held accountable for having your guy blow by you, maybe the response would be better. So I don't like this Raptor group is not the best set of defensive players. I get that, but I just don't think they're as poor as they're made to look. Especially Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry should be able to stay in front of most point guards in the league, but he's not, because he's too free out there. His role is almost, as I said, like a free safety. He's very aggressive on traps. And with the result, you see guys get by him all the time. I don't think that's Kyle Lowry not being able to stay in front of people. That's just Kyle Lowry operating within a greater system that affords him that flexibility where he's able to roam and look bad in the process. So I don't know. I don't think it's just the inability of the individual player. It's part of something bigger. And after that, we got Winterbreaker asking, do you think Masai will throw a max offer to JV or wait for the next year to match one? And for TR, numbers, years if offered. I don't know, man. I have no idea. I don't think JV is a max money player right now. I think he's a really good player. I don't think you're going to find a team out there willing to throw max money at him. I think giving him max money at this point would be kind of silly. It's kind of like DeMar DeRozan. You didn't need to give him a big contract at the time. You could just waited a year and match the offer. So no, and no offer to JV just yet. As for Terrence Ross, at this moment, he's basically a $3 million a year player. That's what I think. I don't know what number of years, but he's basically a $3 million a year player, if that. And then finally, Mo Square asks, James Johnson versus a Shark in a best of 7, who wins? I don't know, James Johnson. I guess it depends what kind of shark. It depends what kind of shark. Is it a hammerhead shark? Is it a orca? Is it one of those like smaller sharks, which you kind of see at Ripley's Believe It or Not in downtown? It depends. I mean, James Johnson's a tough guy, a black belt and all that, but against an orca, I just don't see what he could do. And also, does he have a weapon? Single-handedly, I don't think he can do much with an orca, unless he gets to like where the orca's eye is and kind of smashes that in, dizzying the shark maybe. Maybe he has a chance then. So it depends on what kind of shark. I think the smaller shark that you'll find in aquariums and stuff, yeah, I'll take James Johnson. But a shark out in the ocean, in the open waters, you know, he's playing on the road there. There's no home court advantage. So afraid to say, but I got to go with the shark. Got to go with the shark in that case. But again, Mo Square, you got to qualify your question, man. You can't just say a shark. You got to say what kind of shark. And with that, we'll end part 2. We'll end part 2 and come back and take a look at the schedule before calling it a night. Welcome back to part 3 of Raptors Weekly. Just briefly looking ahead to the schedule before we call it a night. The Raptors continue their West Coast swing with San Antonio on Tuesday night at 8:30, and after that it's Miami and Portland at home. That's a Friday-Sunday set. So 3 games that are going to be tough. The Spurs have won 5 straight. They just beat the Bulls. Tony Parker had 32 against the Derrick Rose-less Bulls. So the Raptors, who have beaten the Spurs once this season, James Johnson had a huge game at home against his buddy Tim Duncan. There's a Wake Forest connection there, so he especially gets up for that one. So maybe he does it again. But again, you don't foresee the Raptors winning this one because the Spurs are playing some hot basketball and they move the ball. And any team that moves the ball, the Raptors will deploy a smaller lineup. And they'll hang with them for a bit, but that lineup will get tired. And when it comes to plan B on how to play defense in the fourth quarter, there won't be one. And you can trust Dwayne Casey to make some funny substitutions, which we'll see Tim Duncan matched up with maybe Chuck Hayes at some point, and the Raptors will likely lose that one. Up next is Miami, which is probably the most winnable game of the 3, even though they looked pretty good against against the Kings the other night. They beat them in OT. They survived a pretty good game from Rudy Gay, who was 12 for 24 for 27 points. Miami actually came back in the fourth quarter. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter and made a rally, came back and won it in OT. So Miami, they're moving the ball, man. They had a really strong fourth quarter. I saw that on League Pass. Dwayne Wade is kind of taken over. He was 10 for 18 in that game. So, if you're wondering whether we're going to see the last of the high-profile wings in Russell Westbrook, well, no, man. We got Tony Parker, and then we got Dwayne Wade. That one's at home. And then right after, we got Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers coming in on Sunday. That's another game the Raptors actually were competitive in Portland, but ended up losing a tight one in the fourth quarter. That was when Kyle Lowry was on fire. Everything was going in, and now it's the tables have kind of turned. And all these three games are tough, but I'd say Miami is probably the most winnable one. So I'd say 1-2 optimistically. Lost to San Antonio, win against Miami, and lost to Portland. I don't know. That kind of sounds about right. Unless they wear the purple jerseys on the Friday night, then there's an 0-3. Those purple jerseys, man, they're cursed. I don't know what our record is in them, but it's not very good. I think every game I've seen with the Raptors wear them, they either get blown out or DeMar DeRozan gets injured. One of the two. I think that's it, man. I know it's a shorter podcast, but it is solo, and hopefully next week we'll be back with a whole panel and review the week's games, and hopefully by that time the Raptors will be faring better. I don't know. They just need a kick in the butt. They just need something to fire themselves up. I don't know what that is. I don't know if Dwayne Casey can do it. Maybe he can give a great any given Sunday talk which fires them up. Maybe it's a team-only meeting or players-only meeting. Maybe it's Tom Sterner going off on them. Maybe it's that assistant coach with a lisp. Maybe he can go off on them. I don't know. I don't know what it is that can fire this team up. I think the OKC game was progress. I think they played well for the most part, but getting out rebounded by that big of a margin, it's just you're not going to win many NBA games doing that. The balance on the court is always a little off. I find that we have a presence in Jonas Valanciunas that isn't used enough, and when he is used, it's very simplistic. It's almost mechanical the way we use him. Here you go, Jonas, go post up and take a hook. It's not intricate. It doesn't come off from any passing. It's not very fluid. It seems almost forced. It's almost like he gets the ball and four guys just watch. And given that he's not a great passer, it always ends up in a turnover if he's doubled. It's not very intricate or sophisticated, our offense. And that's nothing new, man. We knew that, 3 months ago. Yeah, that's old news. It's just that now our offense is being tested and teams are asking questions of us. Can you diversify your offense to produce better looks in the fourth quarter? And the answer right now is no. The Raptors haven't been able to do that. They're still taking a lot of contested one-on-one shots, whether it be Kyle Lowry stepping back against Ibaka. I know it went in, but that's not a good shot, man. DeMar DeRozan fadeaway three, that's not good, man. Lou Will, peeling off and over two defenders and launching a three. No, that's not offense, man. Those are shots you can get anytime at any point in the shot clock. That's not what a coach gets paid to create. Those are not manufactured shots. Those are there for the taking at any point in the offense. You got to get something more than that. And defensively, hey, man, the Raptors are conceding 100 points a game in every game. They're the only team in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference that concedes over 100 points a game. That's not good. And this is from a quote-unquote defensive-minded coach. And I really don't see any adjustments the defense has made throughout the course of the season. I don't see one thing that we have done differently from game 10 to now. Even when our defense isn't working, we're just trying the same thing over and over again. And it's not surprising that the results are the same. I don't know. There's a lot of questions of Dwayne Casey being asked right now on offense, on defense, and really right now his post-game press conferences are more or less the same. You could play the same press conference after every game and it would kind of make sense. And that's you got to fix that. You got to fix that. And I think that's it, man. I don't want to go off on Dwayne Casey just yet. The team does have 38 wins, so we'll see how this week goes. It's 3 games. You win a couple, things are back on track. You lose all 3, especially Miami at home, that's going to be tough to swallow. And with that, we'll call it a night. Again, we'll be back next week with a full panel. Until then, goodbye.